Well, here's some good news. After 17 years, the X Factor is over. No more Simon Cowell and the X Factor. Thank God. Let's talk about that. Hello my friends and welcome to the channel. Now if you've been following me for a while, you know that I steer clear of mainstream media, you know, the music industry and all the commercial stuff. But I think it is important that we do talk about X Factor because X Factor has been such a huge part of the music industry, unfortunately, for the last 17 years or so. And I'm just delighted to see the end of it because it is, in my opinion, it is car crash TV. I hate it the way these programs are marketed as good TV. They are not. This is car crash TV. So this video is going to be quite ranty, maybe a little bit preachy, but I'm just going to speak my mind towards this. Now, I think the problem I have with the X Factor is the fact that it turned into something really sinister. Now, if you look at the way it started off, I don't have a problem with the way it started. It started off as a talent show. Get some singers in and, you know, we'll have a vote, the audience vote, and the best one will win. I don't have a problem with that because talent shows date back to the beginning of time, so no problem with that. The problem is that somewhere along the line, the producers thought, hang on here, there is a lot of value in the ridicule and shock factor. And that is where that's really what got me turned me against it. Now, look, I'm no social justice warrior. I like a giggle and a laugh just as much as anyone else. And there were people that used to come and stand in front of the panel and sing that were clearly, they clearly couldn't sing. And just seeing the delusion in these people, you know, they're believing that they're destined for greatness, but they can't even hold a note. And sometimes the put downs were good and they were funny because some people were arrogant and just deluded and they, you know, somewhat deserved that. However, there were certain people that went and stood in front of that panel who clearly had mental health issues, who, as far as I'm concerned, were not mentally equipped to deal with that situation. And this is why I could not work for TV companies like that, because if it was my job to find someone to be ridiculed, I'd be out of there. Because if someone came in and they were a real arrogant dick, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, go stand in front of Simon, I hope he slaughters you. But there were people that came in that were clearly vulnerable and they should have not been put in that position. And this is where I draw the line. And of course, you know, I'm no social justice warrior, but I just think some people were ridiculed and hurt and they were clearly not mentally equipped to deal with that situation. Also, one of the biggest problems I had with X Factor as well, and I have a lot of problems with it, is the fact that it wasn't only about the talent, it was all about the sob story. Every time someone came on, they said, oh, my grandmother's in hospital, she's got hemorrhoids, she's going to have her hemorrhoids removed today. I'm dedicating this song to her. I believe I could fly. And they always sang that fucking I believe I can fly. And then Simon will be, you're through to the next round. And by the way, for the impersonations of Simon Cowell, I always like to do this. Now, I know it probably doesn't sound like Simon Cowell, but he is very monotone. And the reason I always pull my trousers up to my head is because Simon Cowell does indeed wear his trousers very high. And that is why I call him Simon Camel Toe Cowell. Simon Camel Toe Cowell, trademark pending. Yeah, so you go stand in front of Simon Cowell, and then everyone has their say. You've got Louis going, oh, I don't think you can sing. I don't think you can sing. That's my bad Irish accent, by the way. And then you've got Cheryl, who's that? Cheryl Tweedy? Yeah, the girl with many surnames. Cheryl Tweedy, Cheryl Cole. We'll call her Cheryl Tweedy. And while we're on the fact of Cheryl Tweedy, beautiful girl, but I just think she should have been a model, not a pop star. And I often said, and I used to argue with my mum, because, hello mum, my mum's a huge X Factor fan. And I used to sit there and go, where the hell does Cheryl Tweedy get off judging people? How can she decide who can or who cannot sing when she herself is like the crash test dummy for auto-tune? You know, I mean, Then, of course, there was Sharon. I don't want to get into the characters, but Sharon Osbourne, I've got a huge amount of respect for. You know, I think she was a great manager and support to Ozzy Osbourne. I've got a lot of respect for Ozzy Osbourne. So what I'm saying to you is, Sharon, I love you, and I don't even know why you got involved in this shit show. But hey, man, no disrespect. I love Sharon. So the panel have all had their say, but it's not over till Mr. Cowell has said something. So it's, I think that is the worst vocal performance I have ever heard in my life. Who told you you could sing? Get out of here. It's a little bit robotic. And then, of course, then the poor sod is shattered. And the thing with Louis as well was Louis would be like, oh, I don't think you can sing. And then you'd start crying. And Louis would be, oh, okay, come through. Bless Louis. He was too kind, and he shouldn't have been there either. Anyway, so the biggest problem I had with the show was the shit show. And even all the fabricated dramas, like when there was an episode where I think Sharon she had a fallout with Simon Cowell and she threw a glass of water at him, and shock, horror. And I just want to tell you something. Once again, I've had friends who work in TV, and none of this is reality. Probably 10% of it is reality. This is all about ratings and viewership. And ratings and viewership equals money and revenue. This was never about talent. This is the Simon Cowell show, and it is about Simon Cowell's agenda, always has been. Let's go into some of the people who won X Factor. Now, some people who won X Factor were phenomenal singers, and they definitely deserved to win. I'm just going to say that. However, I think it destroyed a lot of their careers. I'm not going to mention who, but there were people who won this who went on to have very short careers because, once again, Simon Cowell did not give them the songs that would develop them as an artist. It was what he had in mind for them. Now, remember, being an artist and being a singer are two completely different things, and I'm not even going to get into that in this video. But there was a particular example of a female singer who was amazing, and I don't think she was entirely happy with the direction that Simon Cowell and then put her on, but hey man, she wanted the break. She went with it. Therefore, we never hear about her anymore, and she had a very short-lived career. There was another man who won it many years ago. I think he was in his mid-30s when he won it. And I think round about the time he won it, before he won it, he said he'd get about 200 gigs a year. But by the time he won it, he said after winning X Factor, it kind of killed his career. So I am just glad we are seeing the end of this. A lot of people sometimes compare the X Factor with Stock, Aitken and Waterman, and I just need to say I've got huge respect for Stock, Aitken and Waterman. They were ridiculed, and love them or loathe them. I think Stock, Aitken and Waterman were responsible for a very big part of British music history and pop music history. Stock, Aitken and Waterman, the most successful pop writing team in the history of pop music, up there with the Beatles and everything. So the thing is with Stock, Aitken and Waterman, although it was a factory and people could argue it was sterile and stuff, no. It was a factory, it was a business, but there was sincerity and there was heart and soul into that. So don't ever confuse or compare the X Factor with Stock, Aitken and Waterman. I have huge respect for Stock, Aitken and Waterman. So far as X Factor is concerned, my biggest problem with them is the drama factor. It was never about the music, it was never about the talent, it was all about Simon Cowell's ego, and it was about ratings and television. Also, I don't like the fact that, you're a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old, you've got this dream, as a lot of people do, and you need a vehicle, so you go there and you go to the Excel Centre in London, and you stand there amongst 50,000 other young hopefuls, and you look up at the camera and you go, I've got the X Factor! And then you go into some little room where some people say, because there were like little auditions. And this is where the vampires were, because you could go in there, and if you could sing quite well, they'd go, oh, okay, move you on there. But they were more interested in the backstory. Tell us about your story. Now, I know this firsthand because I knew a young girl, I'm not going to mention her. She told us the story, how she went for the auditions, and she was only 19 at the time, so I take my hat off to her for being so brave. She went in there, she was a great singer, she went in there. Now understand, when you go to X Factor, you don't obviously go straight to Simon Cowell and Sharon. There are these little preliminary rounds. Of course, there are 50,000 people. And it's not about if you can sing. It's about television ratings. So anyway, this girl, this friend that I knew, she went there, she sang, and they told her, okay, you're clearly through. And then I think one of them asked, did you have a story to tell us? Because I think they wanted some soppy backstory, like, oh, my grandmother's got hemorrhoids, so I don't know if she's going to make it. They always want a sob story. And she basically turned around and she said, I'm just here to sing. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And she walked out. Now, that was very brave of her, because if she'd given the sob story, she'd probably have gone through. And I don't know all the details to that, but I just know I have a lot of respect for her for just turning that down, because she wasn't going to buy into the bullshit. Because, let's face it, it's always the bullshit, it's always the drama, and this is the problem I have with it. Now, I like theatre and all that. I don't have a problem with that. But I just think there is this, something has worked its way into the culture of humanity where we just love putting people down. There are these programs in Britain now. I know we've got these TV programs like Britain's Worst Driver and Britain's Worst Neighbour. It's always the focus on the negativity. Now, I'm not preaching, and I like to laugh and take the piss as much as everyone else, but I strongly feel that if you are a TV corporation which is publicly funded, you have a responsibility to be moral and to do the right thing. You do, because, man, I hate to think of the mental damage and stuff that is going to... And this is all only coming out now. These people that have been hurt and ridiculed by this. And, of course, this footage is on YouTube and other platforms, and it's up there for everyone to see. And there are people there that have been really, really hurt by this. You know what I mean? It just doesn't sit with me. I really, really don't. It just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I'm glad the X Factor's over, and I don't know how you feel either. And I'm sure Simon Cowell will go on to do other things. Maybe he can do a new range of the new Simon Cowell camel toe trouser collection. Yeah, he's the first male camel toe I've ever seen. Anyway, moving swiftly on. What are your feelings on this? I'd like to know. As I say, this is a very different type of video, but I do feel strongly about it. I'm glad it's over. What are your feelings on the X Factor now being over? Anything you'd like to say? Keep it clean, keep it respectful, and I will see you on the next video. Adios.